Our first guest tonight is a man of great talent, both in front of and behind the camera. Even to the side of the camera, he's very good. He is director and executive producer of the Peabody Award-winning Severance. New episodes of Season 2 stream Fridays on Apple TV+. Please welcome Ben Stiller.
Guillermo.
Before I forget, this came out of Guillermo, and he wanted you to have it.
He laid an egg in a good way. By the way, you were talking on the break about Guillermo knocking back all that tequila.
Yeah.
Right? And then waking up. When did you wake up this morning?
I wake up at 3 in the morning.
Right.
then-
You said that to go pee, but then...
6:45.
6:45. He's in the gym, 6:45, after getting blasted on tequila, right?
Exactly, yes.
He claims he has
Incredible.
a trainer, and then they work out 4 times a week.
Yes, yes. Do you believe that?
No.
Yeah. You want to call my trainer? You want to ask him? Yeah.
Come on,
How do I know he's not on
solid.
your payroll, Guillermo?
No.
Anyway, this is worth $8, so that's
hey, yeah,
for
that
you.
was impressive.
Yeah.
First of all, I
Yeah.
would like to say a couple of things
Okay.
to you. I think, we talk about like the great Oscar hosts of all time. You are maybe the greatest Oscar presenter of all time, and you solidified that yesterday. Yes, you did. Yes.
I don't know about that. Conan knocked it out of the park
He
last
did.
night.
He did.
Incredible.
He
And
was
he
great.
had big shoes to follow, right? And you were one of my favorites. And it made me very happy to see him do so well. And Sandler was so funny. And
He was. But
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
also very funny.
Thank you.
I love that bit where you were in the motion capture green costume
Yes.
and weren't on
Yeah,
green screen.
That felt very isolated and alone when I did
But
that.
then last night, they gave you one of the most boring categories to present, right?
Yeah,
Production design.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is the people who, they do a great job, but they create the sets. They
Right,
build and
right.
design the sets.
Yeah.
And, here's Ben last night.
With their strong knowledge of color theory and architecture, they handle everything from minor visual details to massive technical challenges, collaborating with the director to significantly impact the final image on screen, making sure what you are seeing is exactly what the artists intended.
We were all laughing at home.
That elevator. It is a lonely feeling when you're in the elevator thing and it goes down, because I got on at stage level and then it went down behind, the backing so that nobody saw. And I'm down in this pit and I felt like in Gladiator or something, like I'm the lion that they're waiting to take up to, and then you look up and the stagehands are just looking at you like,
Good luck.
wow.
Yeah.
Boy, this guy's gonna do this.
And that's I don't think no one realizes that there's a lot of machinery and stuff down there, right?
Yeah, it was the first rehearsal. I tried to get out, and I want to do it for real. And I tried to get out, and it took me literally 2 minutes of trying to crawl out.
Yeah.
To the point where I was having this sort of you have to do this, and I was I don't know, I just got so in my head, I had to prove it to myself, and they started to worry that I was okay. And so
you were, and by the way, being in a tuxedo like that is not helpful.
Yes, I made sure that I wore these really long black compression socks so I didn't J.D. Vance it with the, what I'm talking about?
Smart. You're always thinking. It's the attention to detail that we really admire. And then you later on, I assume you're aware of this. You tweeted something about the Knicks winning the game.
Yeah, well, the Knicks were playing during the Oscar telecast, and I'm a big Knicks fan. I watch every game, and it was a big game there in Miami. And I was focusing on the bit, but yet I was aware that the game was happening, but I wasn't one of those people, I wasn't gonna watch it on my phone in the audience or something. Some people...
That's
right?
considerate.
Yeah, right. Look, I was not invested. I had no movie. I haven't been in a movie for 10 years. So I'm not nominated. I felt bad I lost. I wasn't even nominated. So I'm not really, I'm there to just hopefully do well with my bit. But then when the bit was over, I was like, oh my God, the Knicks. I have to check. And so I didn't check the score before, and then I looked, and they won in overtime. Jalen Brunson, once again, Captain Clutch. And so I tweeted out, Knicks win, and apparently
It became a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, why is he tweeting about the Knicks during the Oscars?
But can't you walk and chew gum at the same time?
I guess we can now multitask. Are you one of those guys who, like, if like you were to be at dinner during the Knicks game, you'd have it on in the table or under the table?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I have now gotten to the point where I literally, like, I just saw, oh, the Knicks are playing Tuesday, you know, at 7:30 on the East, or they're playing Tuesday in Golden State. 4:30, it's 7:30 here. So anyway, I have to arrange my schedule around it.
Around the game?
I'm not going to the game. I just need to watch it. Yeah.
Are you going to go to the game? Lakers play the Knicks
I'm
this
trying to
week.
get tickets. If you can get me tickets to the Lakers game, I'll
No
go.
problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No
Okay.
problem. Okay, so the other thing is,
Yeah.
you know I love Severance so much.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
it's a great show. And great episode last week also.
Yes, our last week's episode was directed by Jessica Lee Gagné, who's
She
our
did a
cinematographer,
great job.
and the most, in my opinion, one of the most amazing directorial debuts.
I watched that episode and I was thinking about the directing because what goes through my head is I have no idea how anyone comes up with any of this. I could never think of all those beautiful montage shots of their early relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, is that written down anywhere?
On that episode, it's Jessica working with Mark Friedman, and we all, you know, obviously spend a lot of time talking about the story and figuring it out. But then it's sort of like, how do you distill a relationship down? Not to give any spoilers to people, but, you know, it's basically, you know, very much a director's vision that hopefully, you know, when people have been working on the show so long, we're all like in sync. And you want to let
Absolutely
people
great.
do their thing and, you know, be creative.
So great.
Yeah.
When you go to the Oscars or parties afterwards or like Saturday Night Live, that 50th anniversary special, are people constantly asking you for information about the show?
Yeah, which is funny to me because I don't think people really want to know when they say,
Right.
like, you know how it ends, tell me how it ends. I'm like, you don't want to know how it ends.
Have you considered coming up with a plausible yet fake answer for that question?
Yeah, I mean, I could say it was all a dream.
Yeah, you could say. Yeah, and if it was all a dream, it would be a surprise to everyone.
Yes, right. And I could say that now as a fake out, and people think, oh, then it's not all a dream, but then it really could be a dream.
I want to ask you a couple more. Well, actually, let's take a break. When we
Okay.
come back, I do have some Severance questions I want to get into.
Okay,
because
cool.
we did a podcast together.
Yes.
And I feel like maybe I touched on some things that I shouldn't have. Ben Stiller is with us. We'll be right back.
Lumen. I've gone through a lot of changes since my siring here in 1870. But one thing I've always had is a love for my workers, both unsevered and severed. Not to brag, but my basement floor is one of the premier severed workspaces in the 206 countries from which Lumen operates. Hey, no running in my halls. That tickles.
That is Severance. That is not this week's episode of Severance.
Does that guy, does he remind you of me? Because the puppet maker said that was supposed to be me.
Oh, really? No, it's not.
I didn't think that, is that right?
No, not you at all. In fact, I can think of 6 other actors it looks more like than you.
I got really depressed.
The voice, however,
Yeah.
of that
Yes.
video, that sound, and people say it sounds like Keanu Reeves. You've been asked about this. You've not answered the question. Is that Keanu Reeves' uncredited voice?
Yes.
That is
really
Keanu
Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
How cool is that, right?
Very cool.
Yeah, we reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." And we did it like a full-on recording session. He was in LA, I was in New York, but you know, he went into the studio and multiple takes, and he took it very seriously. And you know, I mean, he's just like the most warm and inviting voice. And I don't know if when you see the building and you hear his voice, you necessarily think immediately that it's Keanu. But then I think you have just this innate sort of feeling.
Well, the show gets analyzed. I mean, really, people are
Yes,
looking at every
yeah.
frame and they're finding things that you didn't even intend. Was he the only person that you'd asked to do that?
It was a very short list of people. There was one person that I asked before him.
And
And he said no.
he said no.
Yeah.
Who was he?
President Barack Obama.
Oh, that's a big one. You actually, did you get to ask him in person?
I didn't ask him in person. I knew someone who knew his lawyer, and his lawyer said, I can relay the request if you write an email. So I wrote an email to him saying, like, hey, we have this show, whatever. And like 2 days later, I get an email back from President Barack Obama saying, "Hey, Ben, big fan of the show, love season 1, can't wait for season 2. Don't think I have time in my schedule to make this happen." And I'm like, what's more important than, come on, doing the voiceover for the animated building in Severance? But it was pretty cool that he responded.
It's very cool that he responded. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, because now you got probably have people all the time ask. Okay, so we did this podcast together. You and Adam Scott do a Severance podcast.
Yes.
It's really good, by the way.
Thank you.
It's fun to listen to.
Thank you. And we were very delighted to have you on.
It has not been. When does that come out?
I think yours is going to be. I think it's coming on next week.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So I asked a lot of questions. I know the idea was you were supposed to ask me questions, but I didn't see any point to that. And I asked a lot of questions.
Right.
And one of the questions I asked was, do you know what the ending is? Or
Right.
you said yes. Absolutely you do.
Yes, we know what the ending is. And what I tell people is we know what the ending is. How we're getting there is a creative process, and we have like benchmarks. But that's, to me, is it happens in the process. So you want to allow for discovery within that. But you definitely we know how long it's going to go too.
Were there any questions I asked that had to be edited out of the podcast because I got too close to the sun?
We did edit you down a little bit, but honestly, Jimmy, I think it's because you were drunk.
Oh. Well, okay.
You were going off on tangents.
I did go off on some
bringing
tangents.
Trump up all the time. No.
Did you? Okay, so there were some things cut out because now I have to listen. I don't remember what I said, but I am curious about a couple of things.
Yeah, I mean, you ask questions about like how it might be. There might be parallels to other, things.
Yeah, those were some of them.
Yeah, and we're constantly having to edit the podcast because we know answers to things and we don't want to inadvertently give out spoilers.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
so you will learn nothing from this podcast, is what you're saying.
No one will learn anything, and we don't give any information, and really nothing is. Yeah, there's no reason to listen to it at all.
Okay. Will you confirm or deny that Christopher Walken is on the show?
Christopher Walken has been on the show from the first season. Yes.
He's a great character on the show.
He's incredible.
And I didn't even realize this, but you've known Christopher Walken for a very long time.
Yeah, this is, okay. This is a play I did with Chris Walken back in 1986. That's me with a buzz cut, and Chris is over with his, that's him, with like sort of like the Roman hair. This was the House of Blue Leaves, the first job I ever had. That's Sean Mahoney. Swoozie Kurtz, amazing cast.
That's
Stockard
quite
Channing.
a cast.
Yeah,
Stockard Channing.
And Chris, I mean, he's been an acting idol of mine since I saw him in Deer Hunter when I was a kid, and he's just the sweetest, most generous actor, and of course he's iconic.
Yeah.
And people, kind of know him as Chris Walken, but when you talk to him, he's just incredibly, he's very shy and very sweet and. He's gotten to this point in the podcast we're talking about. He's gotten to this point where he's now at this age where he thought, people would want him to play like, grandfathers who are like sweet and giving advice. And he says, no, just people want me to play vampires. And I said, well, maybe you can play like a vampire grandpa or something.
Vampire, sure. It could be your next thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's also, by the way, he had never seen the show because
I heard this.
He doesn't have Apple TV Plus.
He said,
weirdly.
I believe the quote, I think Andy Cohen was interviewing him, and he asked me to watch the show, and he said, I don't have the equipment.
That's right. No, he doesn't. And we had done, I was interviewing him, I was doing some ADR, some loop lines for him for an episode at his house. I went to his house. And he said, by the way, I've never seen, I don't do a Chris Walken impression, so I'm not going to try. Okay. But he said, by the way, I've never seen the show. And this is like 2 years after it came out. And I'm like, well, I would love you to see it because you're really good in it. And he said, well, maybe you could get me some DVDs. So not Blu-rays, just regular DVDs. And so I got him the DVDs. And then next time I saw him, I think we were doing a podcast, I was interviewing, I said, hey, so you got the DVDs. Did you see them? And he went, yeah.
No verdict?
That was it.
That was it?
That was it. It's good because my Chris Walken impression only goes for
One word, Well, it was pretty solid. Ben Stiller, everybody. Severance, you can see new episodes Friday on Apple TV+. and the Severance podcast, too. We'll be back with Regina Hall. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. We have 20 million subscribers on YouTube.
Unbelievable.
I only wish we got paid for this. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Help us get to 50 million, please. It's an emergency.